The morning light filtered through the gauzy curtains of their bedroom. Claire woke slowly, savoring that delicious moment between sleep and consciousness. She reached across the bed instinctively, but found only cool, empty sheets. She sat up, checking the clock. 6:47 a.m. David had already left for his morning run, his sacred routine, rain or shine, holiday or weekday. Claire smiled to herself. 15 years. 15 years since they'd stood in that chapel surrounded by wildflowers, promising to love each other through everything. She padded to the kitchen and put on coffee. While it brewed, she scrolled through photos on her phone, all their anniversaries documented in digital amber. Year 1 in Vermont, Year 5 in Italy, Year 10 at the fancy restaurant where David had given her sapphire earrings. Each year, without fail, David had done something. Sometimes grand, sometimes simple, but always thoughtful, always remembering. Claire checked the calendar on the refrigerator. June 15th, their anniversary, circled in red marker weeks ago, with a little heart drawn beside it. She'd planned something special. Reservations at Marcello's, the restaurant where David had proposed. She'd bought a new dress, deep blue silk. She'd arranged everything perfectly. The front door opened. David appeared, breathless and sweaty, his face flushed from his run. He grabbed water from the fridge and kissed her forehead. A gesture so automatic it required no thought. "Morning, good run. I'm going to shower." "David?" Claire said, her voice bright with anticipation. "Yeah?" He paused, already half focused on his shower. "Do you know what today is?" He blinked. Claire watched his face carefully. She saw the confusion, the mental calculation as he tried to figure out what he was missing. "Sunday?" he offered uncertainly. Claire's smile didn't falter, but something inside her cracked. Not dramatically, but with the quiet sound of something settling into a new, slightly wrong position. "It's June 15th, she said gently. More blinking, more calculation, then nothing. Just a blank, apologetic look. Did I forget something?" "Our anniversary," Claire said, keeping her tone light. 15 years. The color drained from his face. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Oh my God, Claire, He ran his hand through his damp hair. "I've been so buried in the Henderson project, I'm so sorry." "It's okay," Claire heard herself say automatically. But was it okay? "It's not okay," David said. 15 years, that's huge. Let me make this up to you. Tonight, we'll go somewhere nice, anywhere you want." "I already made reservations," Claire interrupted softly. "At Marcello's, for 7 o'clock. Relief flooded David's face. "Perfect. We'll have an amazing night, I promise. This is just, work has been crazy, but that's no excuse. I'm really sorry, honey." He kissed her again, then disappeared toward the bathroom, already pulling off his running shirt, his mind moving to the next thing, relieved the crisis had been averted. Claire stood in the kitchen, her coffee cooling in her hands, and felt something she couldn't quite name. Not anger exactly, not even hurt, though that was present. It was more like disappointment, a bone-deep weariness with being the one who remembered, who planned, who smoothed over, who made it easy. She thought about the reservations she'd made months ago, the new dress, the careful orchestration of celebrating their love, and he had forgotten. Not because he didn't love her, but because it hadn't occurred to him that he needed to remember. Because somewhere in their marriage, she had become the keeper of dates and details and emotional labor, and he had become the one who showed up when reminded. Claire set down her coffee cup. She didn't want to sit across from David tonight, in her new dress, celebrating an anniversary he'd only remembered because she told him. She didn't want to make it easy for him. She didn't want to smooth it over and pretend this was fine. But she also didn't want to fight. She was tired of that. Tired of explaining why it hurt. Tired of hearing that he'd been busy. What she wanted was something entirely different. She wanted an adventure, just for herself. Something spontaneous and wildly out of character. Something that had nothing to do with being a wife or making everything work smoothly. Claire picked up her phone and opened her browser, typing words she'd never typed before. Last-minute solo travel destinations. 2 hours later, Claire stood in her bedroom with a small suitcase open on the bed. She'd settled on Seabrook, a small seaside town about 4 hours north. A charming inn had a last-minute cancellation. A room overlooking the ocean, available for 3 nights. It was perfect. David was in his home office, deep into work emails. He hadn't noticed her packing. Claire checked her reflection. She looked the same, but something in her expression was different, sharper, more awake. She composed a text to David. "I won't be home for dinner tonight. I'm taking a trip, just for a few days. I need some space to think. The reservations at Marcello's are in your name. I'll be back Wednesday. I'm fine. I just need this. Claire." She read it 3 times, her finger hovering over send. This wasn't like her. She didn't do spontaneous. She didn't disappear without planning. But maybe that was exactly why she needed to do it. Claire pressed send, grabbed her suitcase, and walked quietly out the front door. The drive north was liberating. She kept her phone on silent, watching notifications pile up. Texts from David increasingly confused, then apologetic, then worried. She'd respond eventually. But not now. Seabrook appeared gradually. The highway gave way to smaller roads, then to a main street lined with weathered shops and restaurants. The buildings had that coastal charm, paint faded by salt and sun, window boxes overflowing with flowers. The Seabrook Inn sat on a rise overlooking the harbor, a Victorian painted pale yellow with white trim. Claire pulled into the parking lot and sat for a moment. She'd left. She'd actually left. The proprietor was a woman in her 60s named Margaret, with silver hair and a warm, knowing smile. "You must be Claire, the room with the ocean view." "I'm starting to think luck has something to do with it," Claire said. Margaret handed her an old-fashioned metal key. "Room 7, top of the stairs. Are you here for anything special?" "My anniversary, actually." "How wonderful. Is your husband joining you later?" "No, just me." Margaret's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. Understanding, recognition. "Well then, I hope you have a beautiful time celebrating yourself. You deserve it." The simple acknowledgement made Claire's eyes sting with tears. Room 7 was perfect. Small but charming, with a brass bed and a balcony with 2 Adirondack chairs facing the ocean. Claire dropped her suitcase and walked straight outside, letting the sea breeze wash over her face. She pulled out her phone and finally responded to David. "I'm safe. I'm at a small inn on the coast. I needed time alone to think. I'm not angry. I'm just tired of being the one who always remembers, who always plans, who always makes it easy. I needed to choose myself for once. I'll be home Wednesday. We can talk then." She hit send, silenced her phone, and tucked it away. The sun was beginning its descent. Claire had hours to just be, to not plan or organize or manage. So she walked, with no destination in mind. Seabrook revealed itself to Claire over the next few hours. She wandered the harbor, where fishing boats bobbed. She explored downtown, poking into a bookshop, a gallery, a pottery studio, advertising evening classes. She had dinner alone at the Blue Heron, sitting by the window with a book she'd bought on impulse. The waitress was friendly without being intrusive, and Claire found herself enjoying the solitude. There was something powerful about sitting alone, ordering exactly what she wanted, owing no one conversation. As twilight deepened, Claire thought about David, about him coming home to an empty house, trying to understand what had happened. Part of her felt guilty, but a larger part felt right, like she'd finally done something entirely for herself. She thought about their marriage, how it had started with such partnership, both of them building their lives together, how gradually the balance had shifted, how she'd taken on more of the emotional labor, remembering birthdays, planning gatherings, maintaining relationships, tracking the million small details, and how David had simply let her. Not maliciously, but he'd stopped putting in that particular effort because she was doing it so well, and in doing so, he'd made her feel invisible. The forgotten anniversary wasn't about the date. It was about a man so comfortable he'd stopped tending to his marriage, stopped seeing his wife as someone who needed to be chosen and celebrated. Claire realized she couldn't fix this alone. David had to want to change. But before that could happen, she had to choose herself. She had to remember what it felt like to be someone other than David's wife. She had to remember Claire. The next morning, Claire woke to sunlight and seagulls. After breakfast on the inn's sunny porch, she noticed the pottery studio again, Coastal Creations. On impulse, she went in and asked about classes. The instructor was a woman named Iris, with clay-stained hands and laugh lines. "I have a beginner's wheel class starting in 20 minutes. Have you ever thrown pottery?" "Never." "Perfect. No bad habits to unlearn." The class was small, just Claire and 3 other women. As Iris demonstrated centering clay, Claire felt her mind quiet in a way it hadn't in years. There was no room for worry when all your focus had to be on the spinning clay, on the gentle pressure needed to coax it into shape. She was terrible at first. Her first bowl collapsed immediately, but her third attempt actually looked like something. Not beautiful, not perfect, but recognizable. "Look at that," Iris said. "You're a natural. Or you're finally getting out of your own way and letting the clay do what it wants." "Is that the secret?" Claire asked. "To pottery? Yes." "To life?" Iris smiled. "Also yes. We spend so much energy forcing things into shapes we think they should be. Sometimes the best thing is to relax our grip and see what wants to emerge." After class, Claire walked the beach, shoes in hand, feet sinking into wet sand. She thought about what Iris said, about getting out of your own way, about relaxing your grip. Had she been forcing her marriage into a shape it didn't want to hold? Or had David? Or had they both been so busy trying to make it look right that they'd stopped noticing what it actually was? Her phone buzzed. A text from David. "I get it now." Or, "I'm starting to. I've been taking you for granted. Taking us for granted. I'm sorry, Claire. Really sorry. Not just about forgetting. About all of it. Come home when you're ready. I'll be here." Claire read it 3 times. It was good, but something in her resisted rushing back to fix things and make it easy again. She needed to finish this trip, not as punishment, but as a gift to herself. She tucked her phone away and kept walking. That evening, Claire found herself at a small outdoor concert in the town square. A local band played folk songs and covers. People had brought blankets and lawn chairs. The atmosphere was relaxed and community-oriented. She sat on the grass, people watching. A couple in their 70s danced slowly near the stage, moving like they'd been dancing together for decades, like they knew each other's rhythms so completely that no thought was required. Claire felt a pang of longing. That's what she wanted. Not grand gestures, but that kind of quiet knowing, that sense of being seen, remembered, tended to with care. "Mind if I sit?" Claire looked up to find a woman her age, with short auburn hair and an open, friendly face, holding wine and 2 cups. "Please," Claire said. The woman settled beside her. "I'm Jenna. I saw you sitting alone and thought you might like wine and conversation. But if you'd rather be alone, I completely understand." "I'm Claire. Wine and conversation sound perfect." Jenna poured generously. "Cheers to being here." "Whatever 'here' means for each of us." "So what brings you to Seabrook?" Jenna asked. "Is it that obvious?" "Only to someone who's done both." Jenna smiled. "I'm here running toward. I quit my job 6 months ago and moved here to open a bakery. Best decision ever, even though it's terrifying." "That's brave." "Or stupid. The line's thin." Jenna sipped her wine. "But I got tired of waiting for my life to feel like mine, so I just stopped waiting." Claire found herself telling Jenna everything. The forgotten anniversary, the spontaneous trip, the realization that she'd been carrying her marriage alone, the strange mix of guilt and freedom. Jenna listened without judgment. When Claire finished, Jenna was quiet, watching the dancing couple. "Can I tell you something?" Jenna said. "Before I moved here, I was married. Good guy, nice life, all the boxes checked. But I'd spent so much time being a good wife that I'd forgotten how to be a whole person. I didn't even know I was doing it until I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself." "What happened?" "I left. Very civil divorce. He was good. We just weren't right anymore." Jenna smiled. "But leaving wasn't the brave part. The brave part was deciding I deserved to feel like myself again, that I deserved to take up space and have adventures." She looked at Claire. "You're doing the brave part right now. Whether you stay married or not, you're choosing yourself. That matters. I still love him, though. Love isn't enough. You also need respect, partnership, effort from both people, willingness to keep choosing each other. Jenna refilled their cups. The question is, does David love you enough to do the work? And do you love yourself enough to demand it? They sat together as the concert continued, and Claire felt something shift inside her, a settling, a clarity, a decision forming. On her final morning, Claire woke early and walked to the lighthouse at the harbor's entrance. The walk took 40 minutes along a coastal path. The lighthouse was old, but still functional, still guiding boats home. Claire climbed the spiral staircase, her calves burning by the time she reached the top. The view was breathtaking. Ocean stretched endlessly. Below, Seabrook looked small and perfect. Claire pulled out her phone and composed a real response to David. I'm coming home tomorrow. But I need you to understand. I didn't leave because of one forgotten anniversary. I left because I've been disappearing in our marriage, and you haven't noticed. I've been carrying all the emotional labor, and you've been coasting. I love you, but I need you to love me back in a way that sees me, values what I contribute, actively participates. I need you to remember anniversaries because you care. I need you to notice when I'm struggling. I need you to be a partner, not a passenger. I'm willing to work on us, but only if you're willing to do real work. Not just apologies and promises, but actual change. I'll be home Wednesday evening. Think about what you want. Because I'm not willing to disappear anymore. Claire? She pressed send, heart pounding. Almost immediately, 3 dots appeared. Yes, God, yes, I hear you, Claire. Really hear you. I have been thinking non-stop since you left, and you're right. About all of it. I've been coasting. Taking you for granted. That's not fair. It's not the marriage I want, and it's not the husband I want to be. I'm ready to do the work. Whatever it takes. Therapy. Actually pulling my weight with emotional labor. All of it. I don't want to lose you. I want you to feel seen and valued and loved the way you deserve. Come home. Let's figure this out together. I'm ready to be the partner you need. I love you. Truly, deeply, and with commitment to doing better. David. Claire stood on the lighthouse, reading and rereading David's text. She thought about the dancing couple, about Iris, and letting things emerge. About Jenna choosing herself. About Margaret's simple acknowledgement, you deserve it. She wanted to go home, but to a different marriage, to actual partnership. David's text was a good start, but only a start. Claire spent her last afternoon at Coastal Creations, picking up the bowl she'd made. Iris had glazed and fired it, the blue glaze running unevenly, the rim slightly wobbly, gloriously flawed and entirely hers. It's perfect, Claire said. It's authentic, Iris corrected. Perfect is boring. This has character. Claire stopped at Jenna's bakery, second rise, with mismatched tables and incredible bread smells. Jenna lit up when she saw her. You came. I wanted to say goodbye, and thank you. For what? For reminding me that brave doesn't have to mean blowing up your life. Sometimes it just means choosing yourself. Jenna hugged her. You're going to be okay, Claire. Whatever happens, you're going to be okay. You know why? Why? Because you remembered how to be you again. That's not something you unlearn. Claire pulled into her driveway Wednesday evening as the sun was setting. The house looked the same, but she felt different, changed. David's car was in the garage. As she turned off her engine, the front door opened and he stepped onto the porch. He looked nervous, uncertain of his welcome. Hi, David said. Hi. How was your trip? Transformative, actually. David took a breath. Claire, can we talk? Really talk? Yes. But first, I need you to see something. She showed him photos from her trip. The ocean from her balcony, her pottery attempts, the lighthouse at sunrise. A selfie with Jenna, both laughing, the sunset from her last night. David looked through them slowly. You look happy, really happy. I don't think I've seen you this happy in years. I am. Claire took her phone back. That's who I am when I'm not trying to hold our marriage together single-handedly. That's who I've been missing. I'm sorry, David said, voice cracking. I've been such an idiot. You left and suddenly I could see everything I'd been taking for granted. The way you remember everything, plan everything, carry all the emotional weight. The way I just coast. He stepped closer. I made an appointment with a marriage counselor. For both of us. Friday, if you're willing. And I've been reading about emotional labor, and mental load, and all the invisible work. That's good. That's a really good start. I want to be a better partner. Not just say it, but be it. I want you to feel as happy in our marriage as you look in these photos. He reached for her hand. I love you. I've been loving you badly, but I love you, and I want to love you better. I love you too, Claire said. But David, I need you to understand. I'm not going back to how things were. I can't. If we're going to make this work, things have to change. Really change. I know. I want that too. Show me how. I'm ready to learn. Okay, here's where we start. Tomorrow, you're making a list of every important date. You're putting them in your calendar with reminders. You're taking ownership of remembering. David nodded. Done. What else? We're splitting the mental labor. I'll teach you how to keep track of household stuff. Notice when we're running low, plan meals. You're doing half the work, not just helping with mine. I can do that. Counseling isn't negotiable. We're going every week. Absolutely. Claire pulled her hand back, crossing her arms protectively. And one more thing. I'm not giving up who I rediscovered this week. I'm going back to Seabrook. Maybe once a month. I'm taking pottery classes. I'm making time for myself, for being Claire and not just your wife. And you need to support that without making me feel guilty. David's eyes were wet. I want you to do that. I want you to be happy. I want you to be you. Even if me means sometimes I'm not here. Especially then. He smiled through tears. You choosing yourself is the bravest, most beautiful thing you've ever done. It woke me up, made me see what I was losing. There's one more thing. Anything. I need you to plan something for our anniversary, our real celebration. Not me planning, you planning, organizing, putting in thought and effort. David nodded. Yes, give me 2 weeks. I'm going to plan something that shows you I see you. Not something expensive, something that shows you know me. I understand. David stepped closer. Can I hug you now? I've missed you so much. Claire let him pull her into his arms, breathing in the familiar scent of him. It felt like coming home to a different home, a better one. I missed you too, she whispered, but I also found myself, and I'm not losing her again. I don't want you to, David said. I want to be married to the real you, not the exhausted version carrying everything. They stood in the driveway as darkness fell, and Claire thought about the lighthouse guiding ships home. About how sometimes you had to leave to remember why you wanted to stay. 2 weeks later, on Saturday morning, David woke Claire by placing coffee on the nightstand and sitting on the bed. Good morning. It's anniversary day. The real one. He handed her an envelope. This is your itinerary. I've taken care of everything. Claire opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Dear Claire, 15 years ago, you chose me. I've spent too much of our marriage taking that for granted. Today, I want to show you I'm choosing you back. Every day. Here's our day. 9 a.m. breakfast at that cafe you love. The one with lavender lattes. 11 a.m. pottery class at Riverside Studio. I signed us both up. I want to learn something you love. 1:30 p.m. picnic at Riverside Park, where we used to go when dating. I packed all your favorites. 3 p.m. surprise. 6 p.m. dinner at home. I'm cooking, candlelight, and our wedding playlist. After, a conversation about our future, about building a marriage that works for both of us. I love you. I see you. Thank you for not giving up. David. Claire read it 3 times, tears blurring the words. David, this is perfect. There's more. He showed her his phone, a new Instagram post, a photo from their wedding day. The caption read, 15 years ago, I married my best friend. Somewhere along the way, I forgot to keep showing up for her. I forgot that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice you make every day. 2 weeks ago, my wife left for a solo trip on our anniversary because I forgot. I actually forgot. And in forgetting, I showed her exactly how I'd been treating our marriage, like something that didn't need tending. She could have just yelled at me. Instead, she chose herself. She went on an adventure and remembered who she was. And in doing so, she saved our marriage. Today, I'm choosing her back. Intentionally. With the effort she's deserved all along. To all partners, don't take your person for granted. Don't coast. Choose them actively. Remember what matters. Do your share. Show up. To my Claire, thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being brave. I love you. Number 15 years, #doing the work, #emotional labor, #choosing each other. Claire stared at the post, at the vulnerability and accountability. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to. I wanted to be accountable. And I wanted other guys to see that this stuff matters. David took her hand. So you'll come on our anniversary adventure? Absolutely. But what's the 3 p.m. surprise? David grinned. You'll see. The morning unfolded perfectly. The lavender latte. The pottery class where David was hilariously terrible but genuinely engaged. The picnic with all her favorite foods. At 2:45, David started packing up, barely contained excitement in his movements. Okay, what's this mysterious thing? You'll see. They drove out of the city, toward the coast. Claire felt recognition as they got closer to the highway leading to Seabrook. David, are we going where I think we're going? He grinned. Maybe. 20 minutes later, they pulled into the Seabrook Inn parking lot. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. How did you... I called Margaret, explained everything, asked if she had rooms available. David turned to face her. This is where you found yourself again. I wanted to see it, to understand, and I wanted us to make new memories here together. Margaret was waiting on the porch, that same knowing smile. Claire, welcome back, and you must be David. Thank you for accommodating us, David said. When you called and told me why, I made sure we had a room, Margaret winked. Room 7 is waiting. Claire felt tears threatening. David had reached out to Margaret, made the effort to understand her experience, brought them here to build something new. They checked in and went to the room. It looked exactly as Claire remembered. The brass bed, the balcony, the ocean view. David walked to the balcony. Wow! I can see why you fell in love with this place. Claire joined him. There's more, David said. We have dinner tonight at the Blue Heron, where you ate alone. But this time, you won't be alone. And tomorrow morning, we have a session with Iris. She's teaching us to make something together. David, this is incredible. You really listened. I'm trying. I know one day doesn't erase months of taking you for granted. But I wanted to start strong. I wanted you to know I'm serious. They stood on the balcony as afternoon sun descended, and Claire felt something she hadn't felt in years. Real, solid hope. That evening, at the Blue Heron, they had the same table by the window. But everything was different. I decided I deserved more, Claire said when David asked about her solo dinner. Not more money or stuff, but more presence, more partnership, more mattering. You do matter. You're everything. David reached for her hand. I'm sorry it took you leaving for me to see it. I'm not sorry. I needed that trip. And you needed the wake-up call. They talked for hours, mapping out their next chapter. The counseling, the ways they'd split emotional labor, the individual adventures, the regular check-ins. I want to come back here, Claire said. Sometimes with you, sometimes alone. More than okay, and maybe I'll find my own thing too. We can be individuals, while also being partners. The next morning, they met Iris at Coastal Creations. She had 2 wheels set up side by side. Welcome back, Claire, and the husband I've heard about. Iris's tone was warm, but with a slight edge. That's me, the one who forgot. David extended his hand. Thank you for teaching us. Today, you're making something together. One piece that requires both of you working in harmony. It was harder than it sounded. They tried to center large clay together, their hands getting in each other's way. Stop, Iris said. You're both trying to control it. One needs to lead, one needs to support. Communicate about which is which. You lead, David said. I'll follow your rhythm. It was better. Claire guided, David matched her movements. The clay began to center, rising into a vase. Not perfect, but theirs. Good. Now you're working together. As their hands shaped the clay in sync, Claire felt the metaphor sink in. This is what marriage should be. Both people working together, communicating, sometimes leading and following, creating something neither could make alone. They finished with a lopsided but beautiful vase, their fingerprints visible. It's perfect, Claire said. It's ours, David corrected, kissing her forehead. On the drive home, David reached for Claire's hand. Thank you for giving us another chance. Thank you for being willing to change, for actually doing the work. Claire looked at him. I love you, but I also love myself now, and I'm not willing to lose her again. I don't want you to. The confident, self-assured you that I've seen this week, she's amazing. I want to be married to that woman. You are, as long as you keep showing up. I will, every day, I promise. 6 months later, Claire stood in her pottery studio, the converted spare bedroom, finishing touches on bowls for a gallery show. The room was filled with her work. Bowls, vases, plates, each beautifully imperfect. On the shelf sat 2 special pieces. The wonky blue bowl from her solo trip, the honey-colored vase she and David made together, their fingerprints preserved. Hey, dinner's ready, David called up the stairs. Claire smiled. David cooked 3 nights a week now and was getting good at it. He'd taken ownership of remembering birthdays, planning their calendar, doing his share of invisible labor. Was he perfect? No. He still forgot sometimes. But he was trying, actively and consistently, and that made all the difference. Be right there. In the dining room, the table was set with candles and flowers. Not for any occasion, just because it was Tuesday. What's the occasion? Claire asked. No occasion, just us. David pulled out her chair. Although, I was thinking about our Seabrook trip next month. Maybe we could invite Jenna and her partner for dinner? I'd like to meet the friend who helped you find yourself. I'd love that. Claire sat, touched that David remembered Jenna, valued the connections she'd made. After dinner, David pulled out an envelope with 2 reservation confirmations. One for Seabrook together, one for a mountain lodge, for Claire, solo, to somewhere new. I booked 2 trips, David explained, one for us together, and one for you alone, because I know you need both, and I want to support both. Claire felt tears spring to her eyes. David, you were right about all of it, about needing space to be yourself, about deserving a partner who shows up. He took her hand. You choosing yourself didn't end our marriage, it saved it. Claire wrapped her arms around him. Thank you for learning, for growing, for becoming the partner I needed. Thank you for not giving up, and for teaching me what real partnership looks like. They stood in their dining room, candles flickering, and Claire thought about that morning 6 months ago, about the woman she'd been tired, invisible, taken for granted, and about the woman she was now, someone who took pottery classes and solo trips, who had her own studio and adventures, who demanded to be seen and valued, someone who loved her husband but also loved herself. The forgotten anniversary had been a gift. It forced them both to wake up. What are you thinking about? David asked. About how sometimes the worst thing turns out to be the best thing. Because it woke us up. Because it woke me up. And then you. And now we're both awake, building something real. David smiled and kissed her forehead. To being awake, to choosing each other, to the next 15 years. To the next 15 years. But better. So much better. Later, Claire posted to Instagram a photo of her studio with both special pieces visible. The caption, 6 months ago, my husband forgot our 15th anniversary, so I took myself to the coast and remembered who I was. I made this blue bowl by myself, for myself, imperfect and beautiful and entirely mine. The vase? That's what we made together after choosing to do the work. Also imperfect, but ours, created through communication and partnership. The forgotten anniversary was the best thing that happened to our marriage. Not because forgetting is okay, it's not, but because it woke us both up. To stop coasting, to start actively choosing each other and ourselves. To anyone feeling invisible, you deserve to be seen. You deserve a partner who shows up. You deserve to choose yourself. And sometimes, choosing yourself is what saves everything else. #choosing yourself, #marriage growth, #partnership, hashtag 6 months later, hashtag emotional labor, hashtag doing the work. The responses poured in, but the comment that meant most came from Jenna. Proud of you, friend. You remembered who you were and created space for both of you to grow. That's the bravest kind of love. Can't wait for dinner next month. Blue heart? Claire smiled and set down her phone. She walked to the window and looked out at their neighborhood, at the life she'd built. It looked the same from outside. Same house, same street, same husband. But everything was different, better, real, built on actual partnership. She heard David call, "Coming to bed?" "Be right there." Claire took one last look at the stars and smiled. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be chosen, to be seen, to matter. And then she'd remembered the most important thing, how to choose herself. That was the real anniversary gift. The gift was remembering that she mattered, that her needs were valid, that she deserved to take up space and have adventures and be seen. And once she'd remembered that, everything else had followed. Claire turned away from the window and went upstairs to where David was waiting. They had counseling tomorrow morning, followed by her pottery class in the afternoon, followed by dinner with friends. A dinner David had planned entirely himself, remembering everyone's dietary restrictions without being reminded. It wasn't perfect. Some days were still hard. Some days David backslid, and Claire had to remind him. Some days she had to remind herself that speaking up wasn't selfish, that choosing herself wasn't cruel. But they were both trying, really trying. And that made all the difference. Claire climbed into bed beside her husband, who immediately reached for her hand, a gesture that had become intentional again, not just automatic. "Love you," he murmured sleepily. "Love you too," Claire said. And she meant it. She loved him. She loved their life. She loved what they were building together. But most importantly, she loved herself. And that was unforgettable.